Hello. So, yeah, I'm not sure how long this video is gonna be, and if I finish it even, because I had a new camera, or have a new camera. I hope it looks okay, because I'm still learning how to use it, because there are like 5 million features that, yeah. Also, if someone knows more about cameras, well, I might look it up in the end. I have a zoom lens right now, with the f3.5, and I wish to have a little bit more light. If I had a zoom lens with like f2 or 1.8, that would be, I think, almost the price that the camera itself costs, so that's not an option. By the way, it's a Sony A6100 instead of my G7 Canon. I don't know why the G7 is such a popular camera. One thing I do know, it has f1.8, so maybe that's the reason, I don't know. But the autofocus is not so nice. So yeah, and I think mostly the biggest reason why I switched camera is sound. So this has not yet its external microphone. That's a thing, this one can have a external microphone. That's why I bought it. But the internal microphone, at least, sounds already better. No fucking noise. So this is an old speaker, just the thing I play with. I made a piece of wood with some foam because I'm gonna block this port. Because it needs to be blocked for the thing I'm gonna try. It might be a very long story. So let's check the woofer if that's sort of airtight. Oh yeah, that's stiff. Stiffer. I'm pretty sure it will leak somewhere. So that's one thing done. I can show you what a friend of mine made. Which, well, that looks like a GBL amplifier, and that's true. It is a GBL amplifier. I start off saying that this is something about MFB, Motional Feedback, and I'm not at all an expert. I hardly understand it, like maybe a quarter of how it kind of works. So if I say something that might not be true, that's very much possible, but I try to explain as good as I know what it does. So it's a correction circuit. Normally, what they did is they used a accelerometer inside the loudspeaker cone or on top of the voice coil. Another option, which looks a little bit like this design but it's different, is servo. And then you had like the original Philips that used a piezo element to detect what the movement was. Now in this case it's gonna be completely different because this is gonna be working with light. And the reason why I wanted a test thing to play with is actually because you could use that on a membrane. Now there are several problems with that. But anyhow, it's nice to play with stuff. I mean, I like to just experiment and maybe it fails completely. There are a few reasons why it might fail completely, but that's for another video. I thought to get used to how this works, I might try it on a woofer first, because that works far, far better. We played with it on a planar magnetic. He played on it with a planar magnetic on a old bass woofer or bass planar from my making. That worked to an extent. It did some things that are pretty interesting. And yesterday we played with it on the big panel with rubber magnet, and it did not do what we hoped it would do. But I think there's, a lot of room to play, and that's the fun thing. As you noticed, I usually play more or experiment more than that I actually make complete loudspeakers. Anyhow, he built everything in this old GBL amp, which is funny. It's class AB instead of class D. and maximum output would be around 200 watts. Mono, of course, but which is quite insane. So this is, it weighs, yeah, it weighs something, because there's an actual transformer in there, which is also surprising to me. But now, yeah, so there is, in this case, not an accelerometer, but light, and I'll show you it, I think, in the living. But in general, it picks up what the cone does in all of these different contraptions. And that's gonna be the feedback signal, and then it will, that's the thing where I am kind of losing. It's used to correct the output signal. And I believe if it's in phase, usually it adds more output. And if it's out phase, which we at least could see with the planar magnetic at resonance, it shows a out of phase correction signal. So it will remove signal from the original signal, output signal. Now, anyhow, yeah, for details on how it works, I would suggest Google it or something. The only thing for me right now is that it's a different way of getting this signal, which is fun. And I have to use a scope, which I bought for this project, and I'm not familiar with scopes at all. Oh, so that's gonna be fun also. So I thought, let's try a woofer first, because I think that might be the easiest to try it on. There's enough light. It's not very, it does look pretty nice, I think. The image, I mean. Yeah, so I'm going to the living room. Yeah, so this is where it becomes my style of video. So this is a really flat plate, which is used for completely different things, but I needed something big and heavy from steel, so I can add this mag base. And I can maybe show you. There's probably not enough light. No, there isn't. It worked so well before. That is, I believe, there are 4 LEDs of infrared and one, I don't know how it's called. Well, that will measure the reflection of those LEDs. Or it measures light, infrared light in this case. And I believe it measures the difference. So there might bleed light from the LEDs right into the thing that's collecting it. But I guess it looks for the differences. So if you shine this on something that moves, yeah, it will change the light that reflects. And that's what it measures. So this is just, I put it here and I have to adjust that, but... And now you think, well, that's not very practical, having an arm. But of course, you can do this from the backside as well, but not if you use a random woofer like me, like I'm doing right now. So, I had to figure out how it should be connected. So there's an arm, there's the light emitting diodes, and the, I call it a collector for now. I cannot find the name this quick. I had to dig around with a little bit of cabling and such, because I only had one probe. I don't know why it comes with one probe. I mean, yeah, well, anyhow, it did. So I did order a new one. And now I positioned this thing so it will measure the excursion of the woofer. So let's show you how it works. If I put on a signal, let's say 35 hertz or something. You can see on the scope, which you can't not right now, but see if I can kind of zoom in. So yellow is the output signal, blue is this thing. So the MFB correction right now is not putting out to the output, because if I'm gonna fiddle with this, you might burn your driver real quick. So now I can just see what's happening without it actually doing its thing. So you can see if I remove it here or reposition it. Oop, that's too close. I had a quite good spot actually before. Let's say something like this. So this is what the sensor is measuring. And now there's a slight phase shift, but not much. But if you would go higher in frequency, where it should remove something, it becomes out of phase. And so what it does, it lowers the output. So now there's no MFB correction present. We're just measuring what's coming in and the default sine wave we're putting out. So yeah, let's for change measure it without any correction. Now I must say this box is quite big. I mean, it's not big, but this correction is most interesting, I think, with it's a closed speaker now. So it's not ported anymore. And you know what happens, you lose all your low end. Now it's cool even that you could use a way smaller box, smaller than it is right now, and do this correction. Of course, it's all related to how much your driver can handle, but you can. So let's measure. So this is just a crude setup. I mean, I'm completely new to this. So we got a measurement, and I'll show you it here in an overlay. And now we're gonna take a look at the scope again. Put a signal on. In this case, I think, I don't know. Yeah, let's make it 33. So this is what it's measured. This is the output. I'm gonna enable the MFB and I'm slowly gonna dick around with it. And you see the output signal gets boosted. If I chose a higher frequency, your driver might survive a little bit more, but you can put it higher, 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 and then it becomes unstable. And yeah, so it can create a loop. And then it goes berserk, and that's the way you blow up your driver. This is, by the way, also a way of blowing up your driver if you do this too long, because so let's leave it at this spot, off, on, and I'll do another measurement. Then you get this picture. So I could even add a little bit more, but I'm afraid the driver will I should test this, but I'll go with it. Yeah, so that's too much. It doesn't make it better. So the previous setting was, you can do this of course with the RTA, and you can fiddle around with it until it is flat. Now I'm doing it and measure it after. So this is rather unpractical, but it works, as you can see. So what's happening is that the low end looks more like a ported driver, but it is a closed driver. So you can see it almost plays down to 30 hertz flat. Well, sort of, almost flat. Yeah, and it should be well, around 7 or 8 dB down normally if it was a closed box. You can use this far more aggressive, and especially if it's a tiny cabinet, you can make it go very low in a tiny cabinet, and that's kind of the fun of it. Now there should be also a beneficial thing in the distortion, according to Philips, but I think it's quite hard to measure this, because if you put in more power to give it or produce 30 hertz, the excursion goes up, well, blah 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 blah. So it's hard to compare because the distortion will go up as well. So maybe I should do a test like using only DSP to get the exact same curve and compare those two. That might be an option. Yeah, but I'm not sure if that works the same. Yeah, but mostly it's very interesting that it now sounds like a closed speaker, but with the benefits of like a ported one, in terms that it has lower reach at the cost of power, of course, and also a little bit of excursion because the port is a little bit more efficient. But that's why it's sounding so weird. MFB low end sounds a bit like open baffle low end out of tiny speaker, which is, I like that kind of low end, and I don't think just adding EQ does exactly the same. At least not in a ported one. Maybe in a closed one, maybe that's possible. I don't know. I never tried that, to be fair. Yeah, so it looks very complicated, but in the end it's not. Especially, sorry Sander, but you wrote down which pin is what, but it's reversed. So I was like, how can I get a signal? This thing is not even close to the loudspeaker, so the pins are reversed. So no big of a deal, but just so you know. Yeah, you can play a lot with this. You can also do this in, you could use open baffle speakers to do the same, which might be tricky, but you can. And this is a very ugly shot. I mean, we want to see all the carnage on the floor. And the speaker. Yeah, so hopefully, I probably did not explain it very well. But yeah, you could also use this on a planar magnetic, for instance. At least that's the reason why I have it, because I want to play with it. And it might not work at all, because a planar magnetic is not as rigid as a cone. So it might be that you're compensating for a portion. Sander, there's something going on with this amp, by the way. It's going berserk. And then it's gone. So it's good that it happened right now, because now you've seen what's going on. Yesterday we did not have this problem, so I don't know what it could be, but yeah, on a planar you might compensate for a tiny portion of a huge foil, which might go completely wrong or sound even more terrible. The test he did with a small bass planar was quite cool that it can remove the complete resonance peak without damping, and that's very interesting. With this big driver, the rubber magnet one, that did not work. It might be because this foil is more floppy, maybe because the magnets are not as strong, maybe because there's far less coil on this membrane, so less control. That might be a big reason as well. But I think tension on the foil also is a thing. That's why I added this stiff piece of carbon fiber thingy to see if that indeed made a difference, and it did. But of course I don't want to have a piece of carbon fiber there, but I can remove it, but just for a test. Anyhow, yeah. Oh, and there is a set of Magnepens, the LRS. I bought them because I wanted to see for myself, or hear for myself, and measure for myself why they're so popular. And I'll make a video about it, of course, but I'm waiting for the stereo mic that's going on top of this camera and see how that sounds at the same time. Okay, that's it for today. If you got any questions, I probably cannot answer them, but I might try. See ya!